Hey everybody, this is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the OnePlus 9 and the Apple iPhone 12. Let's get started. So the OnePlus 9 has a 6.55-inch 120Hz AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 402, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 87.6%. We got a hole punch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 16 megapixels. The iPhone 12 has a 6.1-inch OLED display with a resolution of 1170 by 2532, a PPI of 460, an aspect ratio of 19.5:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 86%. The front-facing camera is right up here on this notch, and this camera is 12 megapixels. So the OnePlus 9 does have a lot of advantages over the iPhone 12 as far as this display goes. It's a much larger display, 6.55 inches versus 6.1. You can definitely see the difference here. In addition to that, this display is 120 Hz, whereas the iPhone only has a 60 Hz display, and this is going to affect the movements on the screen. On one hand, with the iPhone, the movement on the screen isn't bad, but in comparison, the OnePlus 9 is a lot better. As you can see here, the movement is a lot faster and smoother. And when it comes to things like high performance gaming and content consumption like streaming videos, this is really gonna have an effect. With the 120 Hz display, that movement on the screen is gonna be a lot smoother, faster, and easier on the eyes. On the other hand, the iPhone 12 does have a slightly higher resolution than the OnePlus 9. So if you're viewing photos or editing photos, then the iPhone 12 might have a little bit of an advantage here. But there's also another side to that, because if you do need to see little details, if you're maybe reading or doing something where you really have to look closely at the details, having a larger display might outweigh having a higher resolution. So you'll definitely have to decide for yourself which one of those factors is more important. As far as storage goes, the OnePlus 9, depending on the variant you get, is going to have either 128 or 256 gigabytes of internal storage. The specific phone in my hand is the 256 gigabyte variant. This specific variant of the iPhone 12, on the other hand, has only 64 gigabytes, but you can also get an iPhone 12 up to 256 gigabytes too. But for the sake of this comparison, the OnePlus 9 does have a lot more storage than the iPhone 12, in fact, quadruple the storage. So if you're doing something like shooting videos, this is really gonna make a difference, because even 1080p video files are big, but both of these phones are able to shoot in much higher resolutions than that. So if you are into shooting videos and that sort of thing, having as much space as you can get is going to be important. Plus, with the system and apps getting larger and larger, just having more space is a good idea in general. So definitely keep that in mind. Both of these phones have wireless charging, so if that's a feature that's important to you, you're not going to go wrong with either of them. As far as security goes, the OnePlus 9 does have an advantage here, because while both these phones do have face unlock, only the OnePlus 9 has a fingerprint scanner. Unfortunately, the iPhone 12 does not. And to make this even better, the OnePlus 9 has an in-display fingerprint scanner that looks really nice too, and it's super fast. In fact, one could say it's even faster than Face Unlock. Let's try that one more time. See how the screen instantly unlocks? You don't have to swipe or anything like that. And just to give you an idea of the speed of the iPhone 12's Face Unlock, we're gonna test that out as well. As you can see there, it was decently fast when compared to the average fingerprint scanner, maybe an in-display fingerprint scanner on a little bit of a lower end phone. The iPhone's Face Unlock might be considered fast, but in comparison, it still did take a second. It doesn't always get it right away, and you still have to swipe up to even unlock the phone. Whereas again, with the OnePlus 9, all you need to do is just put your finger on there and it instantly unlocks. And the fact that the OnePlus 9 can use Face Unlock too makes it even better, because even if you prefer Face Unlock, you can still use that with the OnePlus 9. Whereas with the iPhone 12, you really have no choice. You have to either use a PIN number or just Face Unlock. Alright, taking a look at these rear camera setups with the OnePlus 9, we got a 48 megapixel rear camera, a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 2 megapixel monochrome camera. With the iPhone 12, we have a 12 megapixel rear camera and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. So both of these phones are flagship phones, of course. So if you get either of them, you're going to be getting some of the best cameras on the market, period. But there are a couple differences, especially when it comes to videos. Now the OnePlus 9 can shoot 8K at 30 frames per second in the rear camera, but is limited to only 1080p in the front. Whereas the iPhone can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second in both the rear and the front camera. I do think it's a little weird that the OnePlus 9 can only shoot 1080p in the front-facing camera. It's really not that big a deal because I just can't imagine very many situations where someone would even need to shoot more than 1080p in the front-facing camera. But it is weird. I'm not sure why they do that, but I'm really impressed with the rear camera quality of the OnePlus 9. It's definitely going to be able to shoot in a higher resolution than the iPhone when it comes to this kind of stuff. If you want to get the best possible videos you can, then being able to shoot in 8K is a pretty big advantage. Even if you have the iPhone and only shoot in 4K, you're probably going to run out of space faster than you would think, especially with only 64 gigabytes of internal storage versus 256 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. That is going to make a huge difference. And that's one of the reasons why I think if you're doing lots of videos, then the OnePlus 9 is going to be the way to go. Because even though you can get 256 gigabytes with the iPhone 12 as well, you don't have microSD card expansion. Whereas with the OnePlus 9, you not only get 256 gigabytes, but you also get microSD card expansion so you can expand it even more. Both these cameras are going to be amazing quality, some of the best cameras on the market. But if you are more focused on shooting videos with your phone, then the OnePlus 9 is most likely going to serve those needs better. Internally, the OnePlus 9 is getting 12 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 processor. Now keep in mind that the other variant of this phone that has 128 gigabytes of internal storage only gets 8 gigabytes of RAM, but for this video, this specific phone is getting 12. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 1128 and a multi-core score of 3627. So it's definitely a high number, some of the highest numbers on the market. There's not really going to be anything that this phone can't do. It's going to fly through basic activities, and if you're doing high performance things like intense video editing with large files or high performance gaming and all that kind of thing, it's going to be able to handle that no problem. The iPhone 12 is getting 4 gigabytes of RAM with the Apple A14 Bionic processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone as well, and it came back with a single core score of 1591 and a multi-core score of 4089. Now again, there's not going to be really anything that these phones can't do. As far as the difference between them, the iPhone technically does have more processing power, but I really don't think it's going to be enough to make a huge difference, especially in real life application. Technically, the iPhone's faster, so if you're doing something that's super taxing on the processor, then this processing power might come in handy. But at the same time, they both have such powerful processors that I don't think in most situations it's really going to make a difference. And also keep in mind that the OnePlus 9 has significantly higher RAM than the iPhone 12. So if you're doing a lot of multitasking, or again, something that has a lot of components, something that's really taxing on the processor like a high performance game, then having 12 gigabytes of RAM versus 4 might come in handy for that as well. But just to give you an idea of what this difference looks like, I'm going to do a quick demonstration so you can see the phones in action. We're going to start by opening each phone's default browser. For the OnePlus 9, it's going to be Google Chrome, and for the iPhone 12, it's going to be Safari. Both of those pulled up their browsers really fast. The iPhone 12 was a little bit faster, but I don't think that had that much to do with the processor per se, but more just how the browsers are set up. Google Chrome, of course, is really fast, but Safari, being specifically optimized to use on iOS for the iPhone, it's made to pull up a little bit faster within the phone. So we're gonna try web page, and this is really gonna show us what kind of difference in performance we have. So that was really close. Overall, I would say the iPhone's maybe a tiny bit faster, but as you could see there, the difference in speed between the phones was so small that I don't think that it's enough to really make a decision based on that. When you get into the more high performance activities, then the iPhone might run better because of the extra processing power, but that's still debatable because the OnePlus 9 does have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and having more RAM is most likely going to help it run things a little bit more efficiently. So it's really hard to say because remember, it does take a whole lot to actually push the processors of these phones because they're so powerful. So I don't really say that I would give either of these phones a huge advantage based on their processors. Now, the processors of these phones might be really close, but the battery is definitely not. The OnePlus 9 has a 4500 milliamp hour battery, and the iPhone 12 only has a 2815 milliamp hour battery. So as far as that goes, the OnePlus 9 has a huge advantage here. Not only is it going to get more life per charge, but it's also going to have more longevity. So if you prefer to have the same phone for a really long time, all batteries degrade, so everything is going to start dying eventually. But with the OnePlus 9, it's going to last a lot longer. When the iPhone 12 is getting to the point where its battery is pretty much dead and you have to get a new phone, the OnePlus 9 is most likely going to still have a little bit of life left in it. Now, in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? This is actually really close since they both do have their strengths and weaknesses. I would say for the most part, just specifically considering the variant of each phone in my hand, the OnePlus 9 is going to be the better device. It has quadruple the storage of this variant of the iPhone 12. It has a 120Hz display, and this display is clearly a lot larger than the iPhone 12. The camera features are really close considering these phones have some of the best cameras on the market, but I still would give it to the OnePlus 9 because video-wise, this phone has a huge advantage being able to shoot in 8K versus 4K with the iPhone. And that combined with the huge storage this phone has is going to be perfect if you're planning on shooting lots of high quality videos. The processor is really close, too close in my opinion to really say the difference is even worth making a decision based on. The iPhone 12 technically has more processing power, but as you saw in that little demonstration, the OnePlus 9 was barely slower. They pulled things up at almost the same time. And with the other benefit the OnePlus 9 has of having a much bigger battery than the iPhone 12, it really does outweigh the slight advantage the iPhone has with processing power. Now, that being said, if you're not planning on shooting a lot of videos, but still want to do the more high performance activities, maybe you play video games on your phone, but you value having a higher resolution and higher quality display, then the iPhone 12 might have an advantage for you because the iPhone 12 does have a higher resolution than the OnePlus 9. So if you're not necessarily doing things that have movement on the screen, like streaming videos or playing a game, but just want to see the best picture possible when you're viewing and editing photos, then the iPhone 12 might have a slight edge for you. But otherwise, I think that while these phones are really close, the OnePlus 9 is overall a better deal. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.